Welcome to Offensive Interference. I'm Coach Gene Clemons. Thank you for joining me. Please hit the like button while you're watching to support the show. And if you have not already, hit the subscribe button and click that bell so you never miss a Monday. Cam Newton has a new job, finally. Tom Brady has a lot of people mad. And later, why do the unqualified hate Dwayne Haskins so much? But first, the other day I told an analytics disciple that statistics without nuances are meaningless. Instead of asking what I meant, he accused me of using the wrong word. Then he told me I need to understand the metrics better. And finally, he said I was speaking in generalizations. Why is it every time you disagree with an analytics guy, they discount your intelligence? This is not the first time. Do they think people who play or coach the game are Neanderthals? After all, football is one of the only sports where you have to go to college. The truth is, I love statistics, and I analyze them to give me an advantage in game. I use them to discover what my team needs to improve on, and I'm not alone. The problem is, once Harvard economics grads began getting jobs wealthy white men that were grossly unqualified for, they opened the door to every yokel who never understood the game and its intricacies to evaluate performance without ever watching a game. So it's not only ridiculous when they attack intelligence, it's disrespectful. And it makes people like me harp on the flaws of systems I would otherwise embrace if not for the honks who champion them. Statistics are a tool, but without nuance, context, and understanding of the qualitative nature of the game, they are just a bunch of numbers. Analytics guys, remember this. Football guys have the ability to know everything you know. You will never understand the game at the level we do because it takes effort and commitment you have never been willing to give. Instead of criticizing and accusing, ask questions, gain perspective, build bridges. The people who do it the right way are great, but football doesn't exist on a computer, and neither does social interaction. So at some point, you might see us in person, and I dare you to insult our intelligence then. Stay tuned. We'll be joined by Emory Hunt, CEO of footballgameplan.com. And we are joined on the Say Less Sports Tees hotline by Football Gameplan's Emory Hunt. He is more than just a football analyst. He's a dear friend of mine and somebody that I can probably see he's going to be on this show a lot. Emory, thanks for joining us.
Anytime, Gene, man. I appreciate the work you're putting in and what you got going on here with the show.
Absolutely. I just want to get right into it. Cam Newton is a Patriot. Now, I have a couple of different issues. One, great landing spot for Cam Newton. Two, terrible money for Cam Newton. And I've seen people talk about the economic state of the NFL right now and the fact that, well, Cam could have went somewhere else and got more money. Can you just talk to us a little bit about the problems that Cam Newton had based off of what the Carolina Panthers did to him in free agency?
Well, number one, they waited till the last possible minute to make that decision to get rid of Cam. I think that kind of limited his market. Had they made this choice, let's say in February or January, then, before COVID-19 really took over the country, he could have gotten that physical, could have gotten that workout in, could have gotten that opportunity to go and visit with teams. But since they waited late in the process to do so, travel was restricted, so teams couldn't get their hands on Cam and see how healthy he was. We saw him posting pictures first online, then we saw him doing video, none of which showed him dropping back or throwing a football until later. And teams still really had reservations on whether or not they were getting the Cam Newton that we saw in early 2018. And so I think that explains why the money is what it is, because we still haven't seen him, work out, even though we don't have to see him work out as far as like the media or fans are concerned. But teams I'm talking about, still hadn't seen him, working out or flying them to their facility. So really they're going into this thing sight unseen, so to speak, and bringing him in. So that's why I think the money is what it is. Had he had the opportunity, to work out, show teams that he was healthy prior to the country shutting down the travel restrictions, I think he would have gotten a longer-term deal with much more money.
And I don't even want to get hung up on the longer-term deal than necessarily the money, because I think what the Panthers did was they tried to leverage Cam into more assets for themselves. And while they were sitting back, holding on to Cam, hoping that somebody would trade for him, everybody else understood that you're going to cut Cam Newton because you just brought in Teddy Bridgewater. So nobody was going to pay them any type of compensatory picks for Cam Newton in a trade. Nobody wanted to pick up that $19 million that was due to Cam Newton this year. But by holding on to him for, 2 to 3 weeks after the initial free agency period has started, they let all of the possible destinations that would have had more money to spend for him dry up. They left it in a position where Cam Newton had no other choice but to go to the best football option for him rather than necessarily maybe try to cash in for another payday.
Yeah, it's interesting when you think about it that way and you look at a team that everyone just assumed he was going to go to because it made the most football sense and could have made the best financial sense for him, and that was Chicago. But we saw what the Bears decided to do with their assets and trading and signing, taking on that contract for Nick Foles. So once that move was made, it kind of forced the Panthers' hands, because that was the only spot I thought they had real trade value with, was with the Bears. But that, they've made their choice obvious. They're going to be in the quarterback market again next year. So I think when you look at what they have to, what Cam had to do, he had to just, I could just sit back and wait. I don't have to rush on Cam Newton. I still am a great quarterback. And he landed in the perfect football spot for him because we know Cam can ball. We know the Patriots will do what's best for him. And we know the coaching staff with the Patriots are not hell-bent on a quote-unquote system. They do a great job of building around players. I think that's why Cam felt comfortable going to New England, and it just makes so much football sense to do so.
Absolutely. And I think it's very interesting, very telling to me that the reaction from football people is, oh my God, you gave Cam Newton to Belichick and McDaniels. Like, what were you guys thinking? And the reaction to people who are kind of on the periphery, whether it be certain fans or, certain internet analysts, is, oh, well, you're getting an old, broken Cam. I was having a conversation on Twitter with someone today about the idea that Cam is so old at 31 years old. When we have quarterbacks with brand new contracts at 35, 36 years old. And in Tom Brady's case, even older. And you look at all of the quarterbacks that are still considered to be upper echelon quarterbacks in their late 30s. The idea that 31 is old for Cam comes from the fact that he's been injured twice in his entire life. He's had a shoulder injury that required surgery that kept him out, and then he had the ankle injury. Outside of that, Cam Newton's been relatively healthy his entire career. That's high school, college, and in the professional ranks for the first 7 years of his career. So the idea behind him being almost washed because he's old and he's taken so many hits, like that to me seems crazy, because nobody says that about a guy like Carson Wentz, who's been injured every single year he's played football in college or in the pros. So I think that when we start to look at these narratives about Cam, do you think that a lot of it comes from how people feel personally about Cam, or do you really think that people are given a fair assessment?
No, I don't think it's a fair assessment, because I think their answers or their thoughts are rooted in the fact that they believe that Cam Newton is just a one-dimensional player. They feel as though, well, if he can't run, then he can't play, as if what makes him Cam Newton is the fact that he can only run. If that was the case, he would be Josh Allen. Cam Newton can throw, and that is something that we saw him do a lot of at Auburn, which made him a top pick in the draft. We saw him do it a lot of at Carolina, And so people just love to view quarterbacks that have mobility as one-dimensional players. As soon as they have an injury, and again, it shows with Cam Newton, people ignore the fact that his shoulder injury came from him in the pocket. So people love to play stupid and play dumb. And so what they do is they try to project their insecurities and their personal thoughts onto the player and what he can or can't do. So I just think that when people view Cam Newton as a one-dimensional player, that's why they say, well, 31 is old. We just saw Drew Brees get re-signed in New Orleans, and we also know the last 2 years in the playoffs, Drew Brees' arm has been the reason why the Saints hadn't been able to move forward to the Super Bowl and also this past season to the divisional round because of, the divisional round because Drew Brees' arm is dead, yet he just signed another contract extension at 40-plus years old. So we know Tom Brady's arm is not there either, yet he was highly sought after as a 43-year-old. So, but they don't view – that's a one-dimensional player, right? But they view his one dimension as a positive, as Cam Newton's quote-unquote one dimension. Well, once he stops running, he can't do anything else, as if that's what made him the best player in football in 2015 and also a Heisman Trophy winner and a national champion at Glenn Junior College and also at Auburn.
Yeah, it's really weird to me. When you look at his MVP season, he was out there throwing to a bunch of guys, just a bunch of guys. He made Ted Ginn look like a legitimate receiving threat. When everywhere else that Ted Ginn has been, he's just been kind of a guy. He made Ted Ginn Jr. look like he was, he probably put another 5-6 years on Ted Ginn Jr.'s career. And so this idea that he can't throw, not even talking about what he did with his tight ends, how much he needs to get the ball out the backfield to backside of the backfield. He's always been a complete quarterback, but because his running ability is so dynamic, because he was so unstoppable in the short yardage run game, it seemed as if people wanted to focus solely on that and not on all the other great things that he did. Meanwhile, you have other quarterbacks who may not be as good of a rushing threat as Cam, getting praised for when they actually run the ball and pick up first downs and being elusive. I just look at the way people talk about Big Ben, and it was never a negative that Big Ben took so many hits. Big Ben was in an accident that dang near killed him, and people were still ready to sign him back to a long-term deal. So you look at the inequalities of the quarterback position from these guys, and I can't think of any other thing other than the fact that people don't like Cam Newton. He's everything that they don't like about our people. He is boisterous. He is confident. He's good looking. He's big. You can't be Cam Newton. And I think that's what really gets people upset about him.
He's also great at what he does.
Absolutely.
So you can't be great and also he has like you absolutely correct. He has a ton of qualities that make people feel uncomfortable about themselves.
And and I don't mean to cut you off, I apologize. That we love Russell Wilson. We've loved Russell Wilson from the beginning. But Russell Wilson is a different kind of cat than Cam Newton is. And it's very interesting how people have come around on accepting Russell Wilson opposed to the way that they've kind of pushed Cam Newton away. And that comes down to the fact that Russell Wilson is a stock answer, by the book, all of the old cliche quarterback things that have been said over the years. That's where Russell Wilson finds himself most of the time, whereas Cam Newton has never been that guy. And I think people don't like that individuality that he has within himself, but it's never really had an effect on him as a football player with his teammates. So it'll be interesting. I think 2 years removed from a shoulder injury, because I want to get to a couple of things. 2 years removed from a shoulder injury, 1 year removed from the Liz Frank injury. What type of Cam Newton do you believe New England's getting?
That's the $10 million question, because I don't even know. I would say they're getting a Cam Newton that's motivated, number one. And I feel as though he's going to be healthy. I like to think that he's healthy enough to where we can get 2018 Cam Newton back, and I think they will. I think that instantly helps the New England Patriots because when you look at their offense, I love that they double down on a tight end position in the draft. That's going to be huge for their offense. Asai, I'm sorry, is good out of UCLA. He's tremendous. That's a really good catch and run tight end. The run game is deep. They got versatile guys that are explosive. You have Burkhead, you have Sony Michel, you have all these guys that can really benefit from a mobile quarterback back there in the under center. And also on the flanks, they got a guy in N'Keal Harry who should blossom in year 2. Mohamed Sanu is one of the more – he's a pro's pro, as he's a guy that's solid. That's the absolutely quintessential solid football player. So, and their offensive line, I think, will be much better this season, you hope. But I do think they're getting a 2018 version of Cam Newton. Hopefully it's the one that we saw in the beginning parts of the season, but it wouldn't be I wouldn't be honest in saying that this is the definite player that they're going to get because we just don't know. We hadn't seen him, really work out or, do anything until, we saw him have clips of stuff on Instagram and things of that nature, but we haven't really seen him just drop back and just keep winging it to where, like how people make these pro day videos. We hadn't seen that from him, and we won't see it until hopefully training camp starts, whenever that may be.
Absolutely, and that's a fair assessment. A couple quick hitters before I get you out of here. What is the deal with people in Dwayne Haskins? Why is so much hate in him? What did he do? Did he have sex with somebody's wife or girlfriend or something? Like, what's the reasoning for the hate with Dwayne Haskins? Because all we see him do is improve. And it seems as if everybody else keeps harping on the negatives about a really toxic situation last year for him in Washington.
Well, it's funny which quarterbacks get the benefit of the doubt. You don't see that with Josh Rosen still getting the benefit of the doubt. People are still saying if he just had an opportunity to play. Well, 2 teams made him the starter and 2 opportunities to seize that job, and he didn't do well. I mean, that offense looked horrible in Miami. And
Absolutely.
It looked horrible when Fitzpatrick gets in and the offense looks remarkably better or markedly better than when Josh Rosen was there. And you just have to chalk it up and say, hey, all right, Josh Rosen is a miss. That he's not a starter. He could be a solid backup, right now in the NFL, which is where he's probably going to end up. So, but for Haskins, it's funny when you look at, the Rosen situation. They blame Arizona. They blame the coaching staff. They blame the front office for not getting him help and weapons. Then they go to Miami. They blame the situation. Miami was bad. They didn't do this for him. They should have given him more of a chance. And they gave him every opportunity to be the guy, with a spirited training camp competition that was kind of tilted toward him. Hey, man, you have a chance to win it, but we're going to make this thing competitive. We brought in a guy that you should beat in Fitzpatrick into the fold. They did everything to help him out, to help him be the starter, because they would have loved to have their franchise quarterback for just a second-round pick because it made so much financial sense. And they weren't able to do that, which is why they went ahead and drafted Tua in the first round. But for Haskins, they refused to acknowledge the obvious fact that, number one, the dude didn't want Dwayne Haskins. And, I cover the Giants a lot out here in New York, and since day one, Pat Shermer said, my job is to get Daniel Jones ready to play week 1. Even though he knew Eli was a starter for as long as Eli was he wanted to be the starter, he kept saying, I'm going to prepare Daniel Jones to get ready for week 1 or to play this year. But he also said week 1. You didn't hear that in Washington with Jay Gruden. And you heard that from people on the team that they didn't really prepare Haskins to get ready to go. And, on the other side of it, people talk as if Haskins is not a good talent. He is one of the top talents to come out in the draft in the last 5 years at that position. When you talk about someone that has the Warren Moon-like arm that can go deep down the field, the intermediate game is strong. The spiral is there. As much as people love the pure pocket passer, well, this pure pocket passer was someone that they didn't like. And put up the best passing season in Big Ten history. And the Big Ten been around since Ben, so you think about bringing him in 50-plus touchdowns or 50 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions, Heisman finalist, had essentially the same year that Joe Burrow had a year prior, and they love Joe Burrow. They automatically, he's going to be great. Even if he struggles, it's going to be because they didn't help him out, coaching staff, and all that stuff like that. We see this time and time again, but we know the type of dog Haskins is, and we know the type of dog that guys like Haskins that look like Haskins tend to be at the position. So I have no doubt in my mind he's going to ball out this year. And then everyone will have to write those articles. Who could have seen it coming? Who would have seen this, that Haskins this, or the scheme that they put around him helped him.
They'll contribute it to the coaches. That's their MO. Like Lamar Jackson wasn't good before Baltimore got a hold of him, and then Baltimore they made him who he is. They made him an MVP candidate. Like, he didn't step in and just go, nope, I'm the dude. Don't worry about it. I got you. Just jump on my back. I'll get you out of here on this. Dak Prescott signs his franchise tender, $30+ million. I'm on record as saying that I think it's the move to make. Not because I don't believe he deserves a long-term contract. I definitely do. I'm really in it I'm just being selfish. I'm in it for the conspiracy of it. I want to see them franchise Dak Prescott this year, then let those other 2 franchise caliber talents sign their deals in the offseason. And then I want them to come back and try to give Dak Prescott another franchise deal that's going to be worth somewhere close to $40 million. Then I want him to be able to piece them out and go somewhere else and see if he can demand the type of money that a lesser quarterback like Kirk Cousins was able to get from the Vikings. To me, this is going to show everything you need to know about the inequalities of the quarterback position when it comes between black quarterbacks and white quarterbacks and how they're treated, because no other quarterback that's been as good as Dak Prescott that's white has ever had to do what Dak Prescott has done. And to me, it's laughable.
Yes, again, the benefit of the doubt. You never once watched Kirk Cousins play with the Redskins or with the Vikings and say, man, they really entered another position. It's always been, man, if Kirk Cousins can play this or Kirk Cousins can play that. You never hear that with the Cowboys. It's never about Dak needing to play well in order for them to win. Why? Because Dak plays well. He's superseded draft, status as a 4th-round pick. Shouldn't have went that low, but it is what it is. He got an opportunity to play and was ready to play and was in the MVP voting as a rookie. I think he finished 3rd as a rookie for NFL MVP, not Rookie of the Year, MVP. And Kirk Cousins has never gotten that high in his football career as a pro player. But I do think, Dak has all the leverage. He's going to get paid, whether it's with the Cowboys or with someone else. And all he does is be competitive. You look at his playoff performances. He's played in 3 games. You can't point to Dak Prescott and say, man, he was the reason why they lost those 3 games. I mean, or lost those 2 games. He won one against Seattle in which he had to lead a comeback drive and got them the game-winning points. All signs point to Dak Prescott being exactly what you want at the quarterback position. He's accurate. He's decisive. He's a guy that shows good leadership. He also has 21 rushing touchdowns. So he's a dual threat player. He's durable. He doesn't miss time. And he's a leader. So at the end of the day, I mean, why hasn't he gotten paid? We saw guys that hadn't put up performances like that get paid a lot sooner. So, again, you're right. How this plays out just shows the inequality for certain quarterbacks. And it's just become even more obvious as it continues to play out.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting that people always say, well, what has Dak done in the clutch situation? Well, I mean, he was playing Green Bay in the playoffs, took his team down and scored a touchdown, and then the defense decided they couldn't stop Aaron Rodgers. How is that his fault? He actually put his team in a position to win, gave them the lead, walked off the field and never had another opportunity to go out there again. That's not on him. So I look at it, and like I said, I'm really interested in the conspiracy of it all, because I think it's sad that somebody who was a 4th-round draft pick, who hasn't been able to get that rookie money, has to then wait longer than what normal quarterbacks would have had to wait to even get their payday. And then when he gets the opportunity to get his payday, they want to franchise tag him and hold him to 1 year. But I can't sneeze at 30+ million. So we're going to celebrate and toast to Dak on that 30+ million. I would wish him health, but I don't have to wish him health. He's been healthy his entire career. These things just happen to be traits. One of the best abilities, as we say, is availability, and he's been available. And so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Once again, Emory Hunt, I appreciate you joining us. Emory Hunt, Football Game Plan, published author, color man. There's really nothing this guy does not do. If you're not following him, you should be following him on social media at Football Game Plan. Emory, tell us what you got coming down the pike.
Well, we have all kind of content coming down the pike. Right now, we have our NFL previews starting to work itself out on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Football Game Plan. And we have a bunch of subsequent content coming out alongside of that with fantasy football, betting or against the spread, all supplementing our NFL previews. But the previews are out, slowly starting to come out now. We have the NFC East done this week. We should have the AFC East done as well. So head over to youtube.com/Football Game Plan and check out those videos.
Absolutely. And he also does really good fantasy writing for The Athletic. If you're into looking at fantasy football in a real football way, then Emory Hunt's definitely the fantasy guy that you want to follow. If you're looking for the pie in the sky fantasy type of stuff, that's just not how my boy gets down. So make sure that y'all check him out. Check him out at The Athletic.
I'll tell you this too. If you're looking for sports betting in a number one sense,
absolutely,
from a football perspective, number one in NFL, number one in college football at CBS Sportsline, you can check that out too. I do a lot of great things, to be honest.
Absolutely, and don't be surprised if you see that Football Game Plan best bets come back as well. We'll probably be rolling that out as well, because this is the world we live in, and if you can make a little extra money, definitely do. And why not listen to somebody who's number one out of hundreds and hundreds of capital? So thank you again, Emory. I appreciate it. We'll catch up with you soon. Welcome back to the Offensive Interference. I wanted to be able to show you a video that I saw on Twitter. This is from Georgia Southern, their athletics department, and it's a show of solidarity, show of black people standing up and white people that stand with them. I think that this is the next wave. It's not the first. It won't be the last. We've seen similar videos from the NFL players. We've seen videos from University of Alabama. And I'm pretty sure we'll see videos all over that pop up. I don't get into why people do it. I get into the impact that it can have. And all I know is that I love athletics because athletics continues to be the people who set the standard on how to bring a nation together. And that's important to me. So we're going to watch this video, and then I'll be right back with you.
You cheer for us. You follow us on Twitter.
You like our posts on Instagram.
You discuss our performances on message boards.
You ask for our autographs.
We take photos with you and your family. You high-five each other when we make a big play.
You celebrate with us when we win a big game.
But would you hire me for a job?
Would you invite me over for Sunday dinner?
Do you know us?
Do you understand what we're going through?
Do you realize how hard it is to be Black in today's society?
We're scared. We're uneasy. We're afraid.
We don't want to become the next hashtag.
We won't change.
It's time. It's time to confront the fact that racism is real.
But it's not enough to be against racism.
We have to be anti-racism.
We must empathize with those facing it.
We must actively call it out.
And we must bring it to light in all its forms.
Being anti-racist means fighting against racism.
Being anti-racist results from a conscious decision to make frequent, consistent, equitable choices daily. These choices require ongoing self-awareness and self-reflection as we move through life.
Being a racist or an anti-racist isn't about who you are, it's about what you do.
The recent events around our country has been a wake-up call.
Enough is enough.
These are difficult discussions that have to be had.
Recognizing and admitting there is a problem is the first and largest step towards finding a solution.
Now is the time for change.
Not next year.
Not next month.
Not next week.
Now, listen to us. Hear us.
Help us.
Change can start with one person.
Lead the charge.
Change is coming, and it starts with me.
Be the change. Be the difference.
After all, we are all eagles on the inside.
It's been statements like these that we really needed to see in a time like this. I know for me as a Black man, as a man who works with many Black boys and girls and try to help them try to mentor them and help them understand what they're going to do in the future. The world that we live in right now is one that is fractured. There's no other way to say it. The type of things that Black men and Black women have had to deal with, other people of color that had to deal with, women have to deal with, but specifically Black men and Black women, because of the nature of how we were brought to this country, because of the fact that we don't know in many cases where we come from, and we don't have that connection to be able to quote unquote go home. This is our home, and it is important for us as athletes to understand the type of power that we have. So imagine if every athletics program around the country was to do something similar to this. If every athletics program around the country were to follow the leads of other of these programs and come together, how big of a statement that would be. And yes, it is important for us as Black people to stand up for our rights, but it is equally as important for white people to understand that if they turn away because they don't want to deal with it, or if they decide that it's because it's not my Black friend, or because it's not Black people that I know, that I'm going to stay out of it, or when they are just around other white people, if they decide to ignore the atrocities that happen, they are not part of the solution, they are part of the problem. And once we are able to see that people are part of the problem and not a part of the solution, we can begin to make change. But it's only until we actually admit where we come short at that we can be better. And the thing that I love about athletics is that athletics gives us the opportunity to bring Black and white together for a common cause. And now when that common cause goes off of the field, when that common cause leaves out of the arena, we should be able to stand together and still be unified, because we know that if we don't handle our business outside of the arena, if we don't handle our business off the field, then we'll never be successful on it or in it. For Offensive Interference, I've been Coach Gene Clemons. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to Emory Hunt from Football Gameplan for joining us. Remember to like and subscribe to the video. Make sure that you join us next Monday for another episode. Until then, interfere.